Yeah, hey, good morning, everyone, and thank you again for joining us. This is the fifth in our series of six webinar subjects. We're delighted to bring Mike back. I think many of you are probably as excited as I am to say, wait a second, I mean, I can do things easier, I can do them better. I hesitate from my own perspective to say I can do them smarter because, it takes me a couple of times to get it right. So we're delighted you're here. I think it's going to be an exciting 30 minutes, and we're also delighted to support the industry in this way during the COVID-19 crisis. So Richard, I'll throw it back to you and see you on the other side.
Great, thanks, Russ. So just as a quick reminder, we're really pleased to have Mike. He was on several weeks ago, and as Russ said, he rave reviews. I got several emails yesterday about how to get to his video and those sort of things. So Mike, on behalf of all of us in the VSG family, and we're joined at the hip with the International Association of Venue Managers and the Venue Managers Association on the Pacific Rim as well. All of its members have been invited to join this essentially 6 sessions of non-commercial focus on how we can improve our skill sets and be prepared to move back to the workplace. So we know you're going to tell us more and more of the things that we got the wows on last time. So as one last reminder for everyone, Mike will run about 30 minutes. We'll try to stop on the half hour promptly, say just a couple of words about what's coming up, and then he will stay on as long as you want to answer questions. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and make you the host, and we're going to.
I think I got to click my 3 dots here, and can you click my 3 dots and
you are officially the host.
Okay, super. Let me see.
And
there we go.
At that.
We're good to go. I can see my screen, and we should be up and running. All right, it's fantastic. Welcome, everybody. I am going to watch out of the corner of my eye very carefully. I'm going to make sure that I can see some of your chat comments, which I want to just get zeroed in on here real quickly, because it's so important for me. So I'm just setting that up right now so I can see that Sarah, and well, we have 3 Sarahs on here. Sandy, Scott, Sergio, Stephanie. Those are just the S names that are on here. So we can see we've got well over 100 people, and that number is just growing, which is really, truly awesome. So how about this, everybody? I'm interested in you today, and I want you to participate. So finding that chat box and using that chat box, look for that in your control panel, and maybe just type into the chat box just really quickly. I would love for you to I would love for you to type in there the place where you're at and what the weather's like. Tell me where you're at and where the weather's like. Oh, and I want to ask you this, Richard, because I want to make sure I'm sharing the right screen here, because I can't quite see my screen, which one I'm sharing. Are you seeing the cover slide, or are you seeing a cover slide that's not launched yet inside of a PowerPoint?
I'm seeing the full cover slide.
Okay, good. I want to make sure I'm on the right screen.
You are
all right,
perfect.
Everybody. Let me just pull this chat up here so I want to see what you're saying. Great. Oh, here it is. Okay, boom. There it is. Okay, so there we go. We can see that Eric's in Fairfax, Santa Monica, Donna. Hey, Kansas City, Donna, Atlanta, Adina. Great to have you here in nearby New York. I'm projecting this out of Connecticut, Columbus, Ohio, sunny and 79 degrees. You could tell so much about a group by how they participate. And really, if I could give you, I'm going to try to give you some ideas that you can sort of build this get control idea into the way you work. Sunny and poolside. Looks like people are having a pretty good day out there. Fantastic. So like Richard did, like Russ, like Adam, just wishing you all a safe passage through this difficult time, and glad that we could do something that might brighten your day. And with some of this downtime that we have, help you get better, smarter, faster at what the things that you love to do. So I'm going to jump in here, and I'm going to start here in the boost quality. So in the first session that we did, which is on YouTube, you can go and watch that. We showed you how you can reduce the quantity, the volume, the time that you spend on email by activating what we call little robots that help you search faster and things like that. We're going to show you more robots today, but we're also going to turn our focus to this. The quality and clarity and effectiveness of the email that you write is also a huge time saver. And when we're writing email in Outlook, there's some great things that you can keep top of mind. And I'm going to try to go through those relatively quickly that might give you some different perspective on how you create a message that gets opened, acted on. 3 words that I want everyone to say with me right now, wherever you are, even if your family will think you're weird. Say clear, concise, and actionable. Here we go. Clear, concise, and actionable. When I started writing email with those 3 things in mind, I got better results faster. And we've done 83,000 surveys, and I want you guys to try to guess the answer to this first question here. I often receive email with vague subject lines. What percentage of professionals, 83,000 professionals, said, yes, I often receive email with vague subject lines from my colleagues? Why don't you just type in what you think that answer was? Just type it into the chat box. What's your best guess? Whoever gets closest, Richard has and Russ have authorized me to give away a free imaginary iPad Pro. Can you believe that? So this is a big winner here. So we're seeing a lot of guests here. Kim says 100%. Eric says 60%. You could probably see them rolling by in the chat. 83%. Well, here we go. Max says 72%. Great guess there. 80%. Ashley. Here we go. Let's see how close you guys were. The survey said Julie's in at 78%, 81%. So anybody who's within 3 wins that free imaginary iPad. So Julie, you're within 3 percentage points there, right? And Ashley is at 80%. Now look at this data. So we started to really go, wow, there's a there. When people write email, they're often writing it not so well. And there's a good reason for that. How much email coaching do we get on effective email communication? And most people will just kind of shrug and say, not much. So look at the data here. 78% said they often get email that requires clarification. You know what clarification is? More work for both the sender and the recipient, because, hey, well, what do you mean by this? Now we got to go back and send you another email to clarify the prior email, put those two together and get understanding and meaning. And here's one that really we don't talk about enough. But when the email action is buried in the message, we all have to become miners. You know, we have to dig down into that message, go down to the third paragraph and find the action that we might or might not have to do. So there's a real big idea here, and that is that the quality and effectiveness of email that you write can both help you get more done and secondarily can help you be, I think, a more valuable person to your organization, a better leader, or to your clients or the people that you work with. So this is all part of our idea that there is something called TQ, and we introduced this concept last time, and we're just going to take it a little farther in your mind. You guys may have heard of a personality test like DISC or Myers-Briggs. Well, we've created a personality test or a profile test for how you relate to technology. We measure your basic tech skills with things like email and Outlook and meetings and Zoom or WebEx or whatever tool that you use, and we give you a score. So with a score, a baseline, you know where you're starting from. And so we are looking for things to increase, like, for example, we would find automation for shortcuts, hidden features in Outlook, organization. How do you organize your email folders? Are you using rules and other automations? Templates, setting changes. There's so many helpful features that are built into our technology that we sometimes don't use them. And I find that this is a really, really fantastic way to go. Now, I always like to give an example when I kind of show you what I'm trying to talk about here. So I like to give real world examples. So let me just pull my phone up here before I go a little bit further into this and just give you a kind of an interesting tip here. Okay, so many of us have realized that Outlook also has an app. Not everybody, but here's my phone right there, and I'm going to just kind of quit out of here, and now I'm inside my Outlook inbox, right? I'm going to give you 2 tips here in Outlook, because I know some of you are here because you want to learn more about Outlook. Well, here is the Outlook app on my screen here, right? So 2 tips for you real quickly. The first one is to tap yourself on the face. Now, they say we're not supposed to touch our face during this period of time, but this is okay to tap your face right here. Because when you tap your face there, that's when you get to more settings. See that? This is a really important area of the phone. And sometimes when you use this, you kind of just stay in the inbox and you don't really go into this other area to adjust the settings or see what's there, which are your email folders and a lot of other stuff too. In the interest of time, I'm just going to click on the little gear here, because I want to make sure that everybody here knows that that's where they can adjust the settings, right? Which is part of those skills, right? Setting changes, hidden features, and so on. And the one that I'd like you to look at carefully is a few things. First of all, I'd like you to turn your focused inbox on. That'll get rid of some of the more promotional stuff. It'll put it to the side. You won't lose it. You'll still have it right there, but it'll help you focus on work, the stuff that you're trying to do to get stuff done at your job. Another thing that's really useful is this focused inbox. I would turn that on. I think that's great. I think I just mentioned that. This is the one I want to mention right here, swipe options. I definitely want everybody to tap on swipe options. and realize that when you do that, you have some options when you swipe right or swipe left. We hear a lot about that in social media, but this is actually going to help you get your job done. And when you tap in this area, you just can get the options. And I recommend the snooze option. So an important email comes in from a client manager, someone like that, you can snooze it for a short period of time and have it pop back into your email and alert you again and be at the top of your email inbox by using that snooze feature. I'll show you how that works in just a second. You can also set your swipe left to quickly delete or do other things as well. So when you're inside your apps, know that there are more features, but sometimes they're hard to find. Oh, and please, let's make sure we go into that auto signature and really ask ourselves, do we have the information that we want to have in our auto signature, or do we want to embellish upon that? What do we want to put in there to have a nice professional auto signature in there? For example, your title. It's good for people to know who you are, to have some context, okay? Now, we have a fun little tradition here at Get Control. If we show you something useful, you can go into that chat box and you could type a little W in there. And the W stands for, wow, that's useful, okay? So if you see something useful in this session, have some fun and type a W in there. You'll find your brain will engage a little bit more, and I'll learn from you. So Kim and Richard and Aaron, thanks for getting us started with our first few Ws. Yeah, the snooze is a useful one as well. Okay. So we talked about search within the inbox in the last session. So I want to move into the calendar a little bit in Outlook today, because we do want to show you one or two important things. So here's the Outlook app. You can download this from the App Store on an Android phone or an iPhone, either or. And if you tap on that calendar right here, what you see here is you can set up that meeting. Now, if I click the plus button in the upper right-hand corner to set up a meeting, let me just show you that upper right-hand corner to set up that meeting, plus button. You're in a meeting, your computer's in the bag, but you need to set up a meeting with this important person, or maybe you're just on the phone and your computer's not there. You can do it, right? So you can set the title for that presentation. I'm just going to call that test for now. And here's where it gets interesting, okay? I tap people, right? And I select some people from my organization here. Now I've loaded that up with 5 important people, and I click the checkbox, okay? Now I'm going to set the time for this. I'm going to look at the date here, and maybe I set this for the 29th, and then I set the time. Now notice that the time I set it for flashes up in red when I go to this part of the screen, which you can toggle back and forth between. See down here? Toggle back and forth to see your availability. And what we've done is we've planted this meeting smack dab in the middle of a bad day. And we kind of knew that, because here in yellow, this is sort of like that yellow warning traffic light. No, go for the 4th or the 5th, not the 29th, right? So what if I tap the 4th? Oh, and by the way, notice down here, I can even see who can make it and who can't make it from my organization. See that? Some folks are free that time. Some folks are not available. I myself am not available. So that would be a pretty silly time to set up Outlook to have a meeting. And there in the palm of your hand, if I tap to the 5th, everything turns green. Now, if I swipe over, I can really try to place this meeting at a good time for everyone, right? So maybe I want to start that at 12. Strongly recommend never setting up a 1-hour meeting again. Always set that meeting up for, say, 45 minutes. You'll have transition time to your next meeting. You'll have more of a sense of urgency to get stuff done, and you won't lollygag. You won't spin your wheels quite as much as we normally do. So we just did a bunch of things there with Outlook. Did you guys see it? We scheduled using our phone. We could find the right time. That saves us time. That's good time management. We didn't waste anybody else's time setting up a meeting when they couldn't make it. And we did it all with that phone in the palm of our hand. So that's my quick example of the stuff that we look for tech skills. But wait, there's a whole nother piece of this that I want you to really take to heart today, okay? And that is this. What about sharing these insights? Think about what Richard and Russ and Adam are doing here. They brought me in to share insights with you to help make this downtime. While we're all trying to get through this COVID-19 crisis, we're trying to use this time at least as wisely as we can. And so one of the things that we can do is share this knowledge with other people, right? So I want to put that on everybody here today to share maybe that little tip I just shared with you with someone else. We developed a scale for that, just like the Myers-Briggs has a couple dimensions to it. So too does TQ, the TCAT, which is our TQ assessment tool. And so there, what we're doing is we're basically saying that for you to grow, when you look at email and Outlook, instead of going, those are great tips, Mike, I love them for myself, think of that as a strategic part of your career moving forward. You got to keep absorbing these ideas. And I had a great conversation with Russ beforehand. He said, I've implemented these things and they were really useful, and I love to hear that. And so as they begin to use them and share them, they grow. So think of yourself this way, maybe for the first time, strategically build those skills and share those. And that's what we mean when we say TQ. So if you ever want to have your TQ actually really measured in the same way that we measure other things, let us know at info@getcontrol.net. And we even do teams like this team, and we can kind of show the progress of that team and measure that. So let's jump in now to this idea of effective communication. We know that people who are considered great teammates, great leaders, and effective time managers are usually not always, effective communicators. So I want you to read two different emails. We call this a tale of two emails. And they're just 10-second emails. And when you know what the sender wants you to do, pretending that you're on their team, I want you to type a Y into the question box, okay? We'll read two emails, and then we'll discuss how to write an incredible, clear, concise, and effective email. So here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's read this message. And when you know what Andy wants you to do, pretend you work with this gentleman. Just type a Y into the chat box, just like you guys have been doing such a great job with this. And while you're reading, reflect on how you feel reading this as well, how you feel about this message. Richard says, I want to scream when I see an email like this. Think about that, though. If colleagues feel that way, and now we're getting our first few yeses, so let's stop right there. Does anyone want to quickly type in what the key action is here? And while you're doing that, I'll ask you guys to type something else in. You give me one, maybe two words that you would use to describe this email message. How would you describe it? What words would you use to qualify this? So look at that, rambling, reporting March numbers. You've got it, Janet. Fluffy, delete, too much fluff, meandering, circular thinking. Yes, circular thinking, very dangerous. Now, let me ask you another question. Great feedback, guys. You guys are crushing it here in the chat box. Once you started reading the message, did you kind of start to skim and scan the message instead of reading it word for word? Did you skim, scan, etc.? Yeah, type a Y if you skimmed. Yep, look at that. So we can see and we can feel almost immediately a sense of frustration here and a sense of what's this doing to my professional reputation? And this is dangerous because there's nothing worse than sort of rubbing someone the wrong way and not learning that you're doing that. So we think it's such a great time for us to think about this when everybody's communicating virtually. Let's write clear, concise, and super effective email. We call this that wall of words sort of model. We think a great way to think about this is people can forget and defer this message to another time. So let's read another email and just do the exact same exercise. This one's from Angela. Exact same exercise. And then again, reflect on how you feel as you read this and try to figure out, what am I supposed to do? Here we go. 3, 2, 1. Let's read this message and ask ourselves, what's the action here? And type a Y when you know the answer. Whoa. So you could see those Ys spinning around so fast that I can't read it. Stuart, great. Janet, Matt, Kimberly, Stephanie. Instantly we pick it up. And I'm sure that you figured out some elements of style here that we're really pushing for in this era where people say, I'm overloaded, I'm overwhelmed, I'm overworked. How do we help our colleagues? What's a great team effort thing we can do? Write clear, effective email. So we see a few things. At the top of the message, we see there's a one-word category there, and I'll explain the structure in a second. By the way, Richard said, is Angela available to be hired? I will ask her. I guess this might be her phone number, which it isn't. Don't call this number. I don't know. I just made this number up. But that's funny. So let's just jump in and look at some elements of style here. Clearly, this is a clear, concise, effective, well-written email. It's doing things behind the scenes that our brains like. Now, when I work with the military, which is a real honor for me, they will often stop here and say, yes, this is part of training when you're in the Army. I don't know if we have any armed forces folks here, but they'll say bluff. You put your bottom line up front in any critical situation where you're trying to be an effective communicator and get fast results. And so that means bottom line up front. So often, though, the bottom line is at the bottom. that's what it's called, right? You put your bottom line, you work up to your conclusion. This is something that people immediately try to flip around. So the key action, the key thing should be at the top. Our brains like information in chunks. That's why bullet points should be an essential part of everyone's writing style. And I'll show you an ABC structure now that we teach. And I would love to teach this to more and more people, because I think effective communication results in better decisions, people acting faster, organizations being less stressed and more successful. So the first thing that I want you to do is to really become passionate about strengthening up your subject line. It's easy to do. It will not offend anyone. I can promise you that. And in fact, it will please the people that you work with. So why wouldn't we do this? Here's how you do it. First and foremost, become a person that likes to use a one-word category. The first word should be completely clear and effective in defining what category this message fits into. Action. Okay, that's maybe good for internal use when it's go time. I think of that as a locker room word, right? When you're in the locker room with your teammates, you speak very directly when we need to do something, especially at halftime or something like that, right? You're direct, you're clear. There's only so much time. We've got to do this. The game is going on now. So use that internally. I think of that as a locker room way to show we need to do something. Info, the exact opposite. Info, no action required. So with one little word, you have two complete different meanings, two complete different categories. And request. Now that's when we're not sure of something. I might request that Richard send me his feedback on the presentation, right? That's different than saying action. Request is a little more open-ended. If you have time, if this is a good ability to do that, and so on. So request is gentler. It's also something I would use with clients and VIPs and celebrities and so on that I know you work with. So think about it that way. But one-word categories immediately shift this message into a much higher quality category. And then I think two concrete items. So when I see a great subject line like this, hey, request, complete the Helix project action items by 5/1. Now, one thing that people always ask of me or always say is, well, what if you have a client? Do you ask a customer with a one-word category? Do you request something of them? I wouldn't use action. I would use request. But if you say something like request, please provide your important feedback on this proposed project. Well, that's actually better, because if they probably get tons of email and it's very easy for them to ignore it. But if they see the word request, I think they'll realize, oh, I should get back to this collaborator with that. So think about this. You obviously have some judgment involved in how you use these, but I've used them for a long, long time and they work so well. One last little thing, if the subject line is so crisp, so clear that you say they'll know what to do with the subject line, why on earth would we write anything down here? So there, I would recommend putting EOM at the end of the subject line, which stands for end of the message, which means you're just communicating in a more direct format. So your subject line becomes powerful. And if your subject line, and what I would do with your subject line, if you're forwarding the message and you get a very weak subject line coming through, which is common, plan, budget, one word, one more thing, which was Andy's one, right? General is bad, specific is good. So if I'm forwarding a message and I say to myself, this is a vague subject line, I will actually rewrite that subject line and send people something they can understand. I think that's a good email etiquette, and it helps organizations function at a much higher level. Now, getting into the body of the message, we powered up, we lifted weights on that subject line, we bulked up, we strengthened that subject. Now we want to sculpt that body down, sculpt the body. And that means how little can we put down here? How can we make the body lean and really easy to get through, and so typically we see those long wall of words paragraphs when things get complex. I would always start with a brief, warm greeting. I call this a BWG, brief, warm greeting. And here the brief, warm greeting is, hey, Ann, thanks for the great ideas. Simple, short, close-ended. You're not asking them for, hey, what do you think of this? Or how was your weekend? Where you could end up getting a lot of paragraphs coming back at you. So you're being smart here in how you write your email. Then the A in the ABC is for action summary. That's the bluff part of this. Put your bottom line up front. I usually copy my subject line down and see if I need to add anything to it to make it very clear what action is required or what the main point of it is if it is not required. And this process will get you to not send lower priority more wishy-washy, fluffy type messages to people. And they will appreciate that, I promise you. Now, once you've got this one sentence that shows your specific action, could be the subject line or an embellished subject line, here's the big move, everybody. And this is so important that I want you to look very carefully here, and I would like you to do this. So once you get your subject line in, you have your brief warm greeting, and you have your action summary here. You know, you start that with request or something like that. You've copied your subject line down. This is a moment in your career, a moment when you change. And here's what I want you to do. You hit enter. And as you're thinking, what am I going to send out? I don't want you to ask, would bullet points be useful? Might it be good to use a bullet point here? Just create a bullet point or the number one, right? Just click here or here and click that bullet point and say, what's my first chunk? That's the thing that ups the quality of your message twofold. Because what people do is they say, I don't know if I should use a bullet point here. Maybe I should just write another paragraph. And then they're into that Andy wall of words style. So just create your first bullet point, create your second one. Maybe that third point is a little tricky, right? You know, that third bullet point that's, you know, you think maybe I should write a long paragraph. Nope. Just start writing, you know, blah, blah, blah. And then hit that tab button on and then create your sub bullet points. You can't do this in paragraph format. You can't visually break down a complex thing into two separate parts, but it's a breeze with your bullet points here, okay? So I've done this research, by the way, and it's a 99.9% preference for this style. 99%, really, really almost unanimous. And if you want to space stuff out a little bit, all the comprehension research shows that a little bit of space boosts the perception that people have, the readability, the memorability of your message. So I'm sorry for all the gibberish type, but I didn't want to try to slowly type one of these out. But that's it. Once you do this, you become a whole different level of communicator. It's really a true leadership moment. And the last bit of advice is have a great auto signature and keep your close concise. You don't want to be a kitchen sink writer where you say, I'm going to throw this in and that, and they might want to know this. And one person out of these 30 people might ask this question. That's where the message doesn't get read by half the people. So it defeats your purpose, which is to be a great communicator. And now it's so important really to acknowledge that this would transform that first bad message that you wrote dramatically into this. And now I just want to make this point. I might have mentioned this last time, but the ABC is very tricky on smartphones. And I think this is worth repeating because this is something that saves me time every day. When you're typing something out on your smartphone, it's hard to get that structured look and feel to it that your recipients will love. So what do we see? Even worse wall of words, because now you're on that portrait screen and they're scrolling down and they're getting tired and they're trying to remember what came first, right? And for every piece of punctuation and numbers and symbols, and you have to go to this other screen, and that's kind of tricky. So my advice is use the dictation Dictabot. I really feel this is one that I will emphasize over and over again. This is the future of communication. Microsoft, Google, and Apple are all working overtime to try to perfect their dictation. I think Apple and Google and Android are there first on the smart devices. You just do three things, and you're, again, quickly at the next level. Practical, right? Say your punctuation. Say dash dash to create the bullet points that we all know and love, and say new paragraph to create a line space. It's so easy and so quick. I'm really recommending that all of you should do that. Let me try to do a quick demo of this. I had a little bit of connectivity with my cellular system, so hopefully this will go off without a hitch, but it seemed to be working again. So let me bring my phone in here. Let me see if it'll work for me here today. Okay, here we go. Hi, Richard, comma, new paragraph. Request, colon, please send me your feedback on today's email program, period. New paragraph. Dash, dash. Notice how I create these bullet points, question mark? It's effortless, exclamation point, smiley face, new paragraph, dash, dash. Thanks so much for the opportunity to work with you, comma, Adam, comma, Russ, and the whole VSG team, exclamation point. And then I tap out of there, okay? So it's following through. It's running a little slower because I'm on a web meeting. But looking at that message, this is something I really want you to take to heart. That was 10 times easier than thumbing out this message for me. And it's much more accurate than it would have been too. I would never have been able to type all this out without making a bunch of mistakes, okay? And let's just take a look. Every time I said new paragraph, it obediently, it's like a robot inside here just saying, I know what you want, I know what you want. And who's commanding that robot? You are, right? So there we're creating the ABC format in a beautiful, really simple, easy to use context with spaces in it. You're using the bullet points by saying dash dash. Those are your artificial bullet points. Use them as much as you can. And notice how accurate this was. Remember that I paused for a long point at some point here. Very, very powerful. It will wait for you. And Siri and other automated sort of note takers won't do that. So use the microphone in the actual typing tool to get farther along, okay? And then you can always shake it back and forth to undo the typing if you make a big mistake. So please think about the quality and clarity of email you create. And guess what? You're going to get more done and you're going to have more fun every single day because people will understand you, respect you more, appreciate your teamwork in utilizing an effective communication method on both your mobile world and on your, and of course in the world of email as well. Yeah, I tended to say smiley face there. Yeah, I wanted to say smiley face. It does smiley face, frowny face, and winky face. Just be careful with winky face. Okay, we're almost out of time. So I did want to jump back in and just show you one really cool thing in the world of desktop Outlook that is important. That's something that we should be thinking about here. And that is the quick access toolbar, the quick access toolbar. So right here is a wonderful little utility belt. I think of a superhero and they've got that utility belt on, like Batman had everything he needed to scale buildings and stuff. Well, guess what? You're a superhero too, a productivity superhero. But most people just ignore this wonderful feature right here. So if you right click here, and if this is where you normally would see the quick access toolbar, way up here. And so what you want to do is look for this little symbol. See that? When you hover over it, it says customize quick access toolbar. Here, I want you to look for it more to the left. It'll be more over here. I've added stuff to mine. Most people haven't. So this is over here. And I just want you to click on it, left click on it, and select show below the ribbon. Now, here's just a truly great simplification strategy. If it's hard to see, if it's out of sight, if it's out of mind, you're probably not going to use it. If you put it right in the heat of where you work, you probably are going to use it. So click on that, and suddenly you see at the top of your Outlook inbox these wonderful tools. Now, I can't go into what each one of these tools is, but I can show you one thing that I think would give you the idea of it. When you're working within Outlook, there's a little filter email button way over here. It's kind of integrated into the search tool that we talked about last week, or a couple weeks ago. And so here, I've added this search tool to the quick access toolbar. Let me remove it and show you how easy it is to add it. Once you got it in place, you just right click here and select add to quick access toolbar. What is this? It's a filter symbol. This will allow you to filter everything in your inbox and add as many different, in the quick access toolbar, you can add anything you want here, but watch what I can do. I click on that filter button. I say, you know what? I just want to see email that has attachments. I click there and I suddenly am looking at only email with attachments. Now, usually it works a little faster than this, but I'm on a web meeting, but there you go. So in a flash, I've created a subset of everything just using this wonderful filter tool. I can click has attachments again and go back to the original sort that I had. So as I'm clicking on this filter button, I can find stuff that, for example, maybe you flag some stuff. How do you round it up fast? Filter button flagged. 3, 2, 1, there it is. So if you're trying to find your information fast, activate the QAT, the Quick Access Toolbot Outlook robot, and it will report for duty every day, work for free, help you find stuff that you need, help you find a feature that may be hidden on a different page or drop down. And here's the amazing news. This toolbar exists in Word, PowerPoint, Excel. Even if you're sending an email, if you create a new email, you can create a different drop-down toolbar right then and there. So give this a shot. Let me know how it goes. And if you find this interesting, what we're covered today here, I just have one big request for you. And that is, let me just put this on the screen here. If you'd like to get these tips shot right over to you, what you can do is simply do this. You can text me Oop, there you go. You can just text me at 22828 and type in TQ Tips, and that's how you can sign up for our newsletter if you want to. No pressure whatsoever. But there you see a really fast way that we can all get more done and have more fun every day. And we send this out we send these robots out once a month or once every 90 days or so, or 60 days or so. So on that note, I would like to turn it back over to Richard. We'll also look to see if you have any questions on email, Outlook, or tech-driven time management. What are you struggling with? What makes you feel a little less than, each day? What makes you feel like, oh, I want to procrastinate on that? Any question at all, I'd be happy to answer that as we roll through here. And Richard, I wanted to thank you and Russ and Adam for having me again. But it's time for some questions, right? What do you guys want to know?
Yeah, and hang on just a second. I gotta do one quick thing. So note to Mike Song, subject line, great job, thank you. Dear Mike, comma, new paragraph. On behalf of all of our participants, Russ, I, and Adam can't thank you enough for the great insights you provided. New paragraph. We'll look forward to forwarding your information and potential requests to all of our participants going forward. And again, thank you very much. End of message.
Well, thanks a lot. I look forward to getting that one. I think I'm going to print it out and put it on my board right here, because that's a big
all right.
one.
If you can stop screen share, I'm going to put up our you'll need to make me host again if you remember
you
that.
You got it. Here it comes. Here it comes, and I'm
right.
making you host. And there you go. I think you should be the host now.
All right.
Yep, I can see your screen now.
All right. So again, on behalf of all of us, Mike, thank you. Lots of wows, lots of great feedback. None of us are surprised. And we'll look forward to continuing to build this relationship. You serve lots of industries. We're thrilled to have you in the sports and entertainment and hospitality industry, where all of us can use these great insights. So again, thank you, and we'll get right to the Q&A. I also want to just mention next week, as we wrap up our 6-week initial session, we're doing a program with an iconic group of industry experts who are going to be transparent and really share some of the pain and struggles they've had related to teamwork. This session's called None of Us is as Smart as All of Us. We're thrilled to have Adina Alfred Irwin, Anthony Bonavita, Lee Zeidman, and our own Russ Simon, all well-known, iconic individuals within our industry for numbers of reasons. And again, I point out, this is not one of those technical sort of industry conversations. This is from the heart. These are going to be people sharing some brief stories about where maybe they had a miss on teamwork, what their lesson learned was, how we prepare ourselves to move back after COVID-19. And so don't miss this, and be sure and share it with your friends. We're really excited to have them. So again, special thanks to Mike. And now we're gonna jump into the Q&A. And I'm gonna need, I think you and Adam to help me with that, because I don't have the chat box up.
Oh, sure. I can see it here. So I think there's just a couple questions here. How do you manage a large volume of email? I think it's a great question. It's a really controversial question too. So it's an interesting, there's differing opinions on this. Some people feel that you should just have the discipline to manage your inbox down to 0 every day. And some people do that pretty well. But as email volume grows and you begin to set priorities, I think it's very important to ask yourself, is eliminating all of this email from my inbox today more important than some major deliverable for a client, for a venue, for a project that I'm working on? I mean, I think that's a very fair time management question. And in many instances, for me, the answer is no. I need to complete this presentation. I'm going on in front of quite a few people in 3 hours from now. So I think it's better to try to use the robots to manage that inbox. So creating Outlook rules, the first thing I would look at would be, can I create rules that sift out low priority senders, topics, things like maybe it's some newsletters that you're subscribed to. Let's create a rule, really easy to create a rule, and move that to a folder automatically so it doesn't interrupt you or fill up your inbox. So then you'll get less email coming in, and some of it's automatically put away into what I think of as a nice library of folders. So that's where I would start, with getting rid of low priority senders, repetitive things that come in. A lot of people get a report every day, and in 3 weeks, they have 60 versions of this report in their inbox, which is really impractical. What if those are all being put away automatically by Outlook itself, which is very, very easy to do and to set up there. So, and I could show you that if you want to.
Mike, if I could, I wanted to throw out something just to ask you to clarify it. I think it was an important insight for me when I originally read the book, and I wonder if this still holds true. When I think about the volume of emails that I receive, and it's nothing compared to some of our participants, but it's a lot. What I learned from reading the book and then testing over time was that on average, I can knock out about 30 emails an hour. So I don't know if that's still true or not, but if you think about that, so if I'm seeing 90 emails a day, well, I might not realize it until I actually did the math, which I did. That's 3 hours a day. I'm literally answering emails, and the way it seemed to work, again, correct me if I'm wrong, is like delete, delete, delete. These are spam or whatever. And then, oh, I got an email like the one you used, and I'm going like, okay, I've read this twice. What the hell are they even asking me, right?
Yeah.
And so, or then I have to stop and go do something. Is that correct? And you know, this gets back to the general question that one of our participants already had: is how do you manage, how do you manage your life when the emails seem to be managing it for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So in addition to creating those rules to lessen your volume, I think it's also important that you can prioritize fairly easily. You can go into the rules and set up a rule that would have a important sender come through as important or prioritized in some way, or maybe color coded. And that's another great thing to pursue as well. So now your landscape starts to make more sense. So I think it's really all about optimizing your landscape. So someone was also saying here, I have an issue moving my emails. I have to search for the folder as opposed to typing the folder name and having it pop up. I hear you on that, but there's a lot of things you can do with favorites within Outlook as well. So there's, in the mail section, you can right click on a folder and make that folder a favorite. There's also a shortcuts function in there as well. So I think it's really powerful to start to look at some of those capabilities, some of those features, and try to manage them and optimize them. Another bit of advice I have on email folders is to really think about numbering them. Because what I found is most people who have, say, 30 folders, they might have 30 folders there. Well, they probably use 4 of them an awful lot. And the other 26, much less. So maybe number those 1, 2, 3, 4 with the title next to the number, and they'll pop to the top of that folder string. So you're trying to constantly organize and prioritize your work environment and make the landscape make more sense to your brain. And then it becomes more intuitive and faster to work in that area. Yeah, so Brandy is saying she has categories in my inbox: if A, to-do list; B, and information C. So that's terrific. So you're setting up a nice priority scheme there. And I see that Jane is asking, do you have thoughts on tools like Gmail? Yeah, absolutely. A lot of the same stuff applies. You can create a rule. They call it create a filter within Gmail, but you can certainly create a rule to auto route low priority repeat senders so that those disappear. That same create filter feature in Gmail also allows you to pre-star important senders. So you can say, oh, here's an important, maybe Jane Kleinberger is a VIP in my world. When I get something from you, Jane, it will have a star on it automatically, and it's very easy to sort your inbox by what's been starred in Gmail.
When I get something from Jane Kleinberger, it goes like right to the top.
Absolutely, me too.
That rule in there. So I want to go back to and we don't have to put it up, but to the quadrant you put up in terms of skill and coaching. And I have found this has been one of the most laborious, challenging things. I get excited about this. I read the Hamster Revolution. I go, oh man, I'm on fire. I got this. I'm gaining skills. I see how to use the subject line, and EOM is in the message. I don't even have to write anything in the body or use bullet. All the cool things you, Vicki, and your writing team came up with your research. But then, I'm sending it out to basically a blank wall, because all of the people that I'm sending it to, or at least a lot of them, aren't operating by the same rules. So I want to ask you about the coaching dynamic of that. So I'm improving my skill. Give us a couple of tips about how we can coach people without, being officious.
I think this is the topic for the next 10 years. If you get good at this coaching, sharing piece of the TQ model, I think it's like there's going to be a leadership sign, on your shirt every day you come in. I think that first and foremost, it's to say, I learned how to do something and it's saving me a ton of time. So you don't look at it from the point of view of you're screwing up, you're messing us all up, but saying, I've learned how to kind of structure my emails and it's really helping people get back to me real fast. So have some energy and excitement about the fact that it's helping you. I think that people subconsciously are looking for that. Are you just bossing me around, or are you excited to help me get my job done? And once you start to get sorted into that, helping me get my job done, that's really powerful. Another bit of advice I have for every person on this call: go to your core team. Maybe it's 3 people or 20 people, whatever your core team is, and say, how does everybody else manage our overload of email? Does anyone have any rules that you've set up? How do you guys categorize stuff? We call that a TQ jam. So Richard and I both play guitar. You're jamming with another musician, and all of a sudden everyone's kicking in ideas and the drummer does a cool riff. That's what this is. It's the bubbling cauldron of excitement that occurs when people realize this is really interesting to hear what everyone else has been doing in their own silo. So ask people for what they're doing and then make a suggestion. I can't tell you, boy, you've shown me something here today. I wanted to let you know that I've been structuring my emails this way. And I think last week when you sent me that email message, it had great content in it, but it just took me so long to figure out what you really needed. So maybe if you could put that in the subject line, that would really help me. Oh, and because I want you to be able to get my attention, why don't you put request in there? And I just want to raise my hand and say, I don't have a great answer for how do you do this with a big celebrity or your biggest client. I don't know that we can control everybody in our universe, but people on our core team, if we're really moving the ball forward, just like on a sports team, if our team is functioning well, communicating well, we're going to get a lot more done.
It's great. And I've heard, and I know it's true. It's one of the things I need to keep working at is practice good behavior, and no one would dare not follow. So I guess just keep doing the right thing, and eventually other people figure it out. I've sort of missed the patience part of that a lot of my career, but I've had it in my heart, just not sometimes on my lips. And I think some of us struggle with that. Well, Mike, I don't know if we've got any more on there. I think as I look, I think we've covered most everything, but we will be following up with everyone, and they have your text info. And can't thank you enough. Just blown away with your gracious provision of time and insight and skills, and it's great for our industry. And I'm sure we will be seeing lots more of you in our various connections through the IVM and the VMA and other associations.
Well, thank you, Richard, for doing this for folks who are homebound during this particular time. We wanted to wish everybody safe passage through this difficult period, but thank you and everybody there at VSG, just making sure that you're looking out for others, I think is one of the best things we can do for each other. And I think it'll be we'll all be happy about the way we acted during this time. And I just love this group. This group on this call was super interactive. I mean, I do this every day with our corporate clients. This was a great group. You had some good people here.
Thank you so much, Mike. Talk to everybody soon. Be safe and be sure and join us next week, for none of us is as smart as all of us. Take care. Thank you.